Total Warhammer 3 Multiplayer. 6 ambitious commanders take control of the most relevant factions in the Old World's empire right at the outbreak of a brutal war between order and chaos. In this contest of strategy and tactics, these players will compete to determine the fate of this world's empire by controlling the majority of the region's provinces in 50 turns. Dead Person Man takes control of ailing Reichland, with Coupled Sphere flanking him as a trusted ally in Corone, and Sirio setting up his operation in the enigmatic recesses of Castle Drakenhof as Sylvania. Meanwhile, Zombie Man arrives in the Brass Keep to begin distributing his plagues while his ally Scarbrand Chan emerges from the deepest forests of Middenland in control of Kazrak's warherd. In the east, the Red Baron takes control of the Greenskins' Bone Rattler's warband via the Crown of Sorcery atop Azag's head. The armies of chaos are immediately on the move as Zombie Man's fetid forces fiendishly flatten the fiefdoms flanking their filthy foothill fortress. Making matters more misfortunate, Scarbrand's beastmen boast brutal breaches betwixt bumbling border bailiffs bulwarking boreal burrows. In the high valleys of the World's Edge Mountain, Red Baron amasses his destructive disciples for an imminent incursion into the Empire's east, potentially delivering the final nail in the coffin for the Empire's longevity. Dead Person Man beholds a troubled empire teetering on collapse and hopes that a decisive and direct attack will stabilize the situation before I have time to make a joke comparing his failing government to the Soviet Union. After securing the capital province from undemocratic rebels, he leads his army north where Festus and Kazrak, the avatars of Zombie Man and Scarbrand Chan respectively, have already begun implementing their subtle landscaping improvements. Oh my god, what is this? The armies of character collecting RPGs are charging heroically towards the Cellular Citadel. They aim to install the rightful king, but the defenders are holding out using their zealous abhorrence of microtransactions. What's next? AI-generated game assets?
What's wrong with that?
Literally nothing! Oh my goodness, they have a free gaming console giveaway battering ram. Soon, all 800 plus champions from this exciting turn-based game are going to flood through the gates carrying over $10,000 of Amazon gift cards that viewers can potentially get just for signing up with my link down below.
Is that Raid Shadow Legends?
Yes, it's the Spring Hunt event where new players who download the game from my link can potentially win all kinds of radical real-life rewards. It's literally bonkers, dude. Just go to springhunt.plarium.com, enter your ID, play some mini games, and win. Links are in the description. Nope, I won't play it. That game has microtransactions and my phone has no more space on it because I have 9 million images of Belle Delphine in my library and furry. Look, it's a mobile game, not a grand strategy, space opera, epic horror, role-playing, erotic stealth slasher, quintuple A PC game. If you like mobile games, it's got the stuff. If you have a cell phone and you're not gaming on it yet, quit your slacking.
Dude, that looks fun. Can I play?
No, but you can. Use my link or this QR code to start playing with a heap of exclusive bonuses that will leave you feeling like you're the baddest boss in the game for a long time, including the epic champion Tayrell immediately, and later Rector Draft once you reach level 25. Then join my clan, the Praximites, and find out who uses the most public transit. Karl Franz, embodying the command of Dead Person Man, arrives at Eilhart, where Zombie Man has already crossed the River Reich, evinced by the no longer distant festering of the great growing garden of grunge, polluting the color of the horizon. Opposite of Karl is Festus, celebrating the foul works of his master Zombie, bringing him so far south so soon. Seeking to put an end to Chaos's early momentum, Karl Franz orders a direct attack. Watching from above, Franz orders his first wave through the valley as Pistoliers harass the plague-ridden invaders. Although the Empire's mortars kill scores of the enemy marauders, Festus and his monsters effortlessly shrug off the harassment and bombardment alike. As Festus nears the Imperial position, a second wave of mounted sharpshooters emerges from the tree line and unleashes hell. Despite this, the demons continue marching on, almost seeming to absorb the bullets rather than suffer from them. Just as soon as the cavalry had left from the woods, poisoned warhounds launch an ambush of their own and send them scrambling. Despite constant spell flinging from Karl's wizard sidekick and ceaselessly discharging firearms from his weapons teams, the monsters reach the Empire's lines and rapidly wreck their cohesion. Mere moments after joining battle, the Empire's main forces are completely routed, and Karl leads his few surviving soldiers in a suddenly desperate battle on the slopes. Karl duels Festus and rapidly gains the upper hand, his soldiers similarly winning their fights, inspired by his valor. However, before he is able to deal deal the finishing blow, Festus's henchmen join the battle, and with this 3-on-1 nearly kill France, who is forced to flee as his soldiers buy him the time he needs to escape with their lives. Shares in coffin makers and grave diggers at the Altdorf Stock Exchange skyrocket as news of the Emperor's rout spreads like a plague. With Eilart burning, the Empire is essentially carved in half. To make matters worse, Coupled Sphere seeks to enter the Imperial theater of war by securing Marienburg from the disloyal burghers currently controlling it. But the noble errantry is instead repulsed by the wealthy merchant guilds. By this time, Serio has effortlessly seized control of Imperial Sylvania, a large region which places his forces in a very influential position within the Empire. In response to losses inflicted by Zombie Man and Skarbrand Chan, as well as the terrifying crossing of Festus over the River Reich, nearby Skaven and Dwarf factions begin to break non-aggression pacts and assume an aggressive posture towards the Empire. Seeing few other options, Dead Person Man dispatches ambassadors carrying a call of arms in defense of the capital to Vlad, Serio's lieutenant commanding his vast undead dominion. To their relief, Serio accepts the call, but not without concession. Serio demands that Vlad be made an official member of the Electors' Council, and be given rulership over the move, which the Emperor reluctantly but hastily accepts. The War of Rot in the Empire is now well underway, and the forces of Chaos find themselves in very comfortable circumstances. Having effectively cleaved the Empire in half, they are free to distribute pamphlets with impunity with only college security levels of resistance. Coupled Sphere divinely inspires his vessel to seek confederation with the smaller states on the western side of the Grey Mountains, bolstering his forces in preparation for another attempt to enter the Imperial theater. However, while surveying the recently annexed forest of Arden, Lewin encounters the vampiric cavalry of Muselan marching towards the Gizero Gap, intent on expanding their zombie exports to the vulnerable Reichland markets. Unwilling to allow this early death blow to be dealt to his alliance, Lewin ambushes the undead columns but fails to kill the Red Duke, saving the day in the short term but initiating a potentially disastrous long-term conflict, leaving him sandwiched precariously between the vengeful merchants of Marienburg and the rampaging vampires of Muselan. Festus may have crossed the Reich, but not all is well in the Plaguelands. While pockets of human resistance continue to refuse state-sponsored dissolution into amorphous blobs of sickness, Kazarak continues his crusade deep within the forests of Middenland, converting the means of production into our means of production via the introduction of communist herdstones, preventing capital investment in those entire provinces and inadvertently preventing Festus's private initiatives, sparking internal unrest as the spread of chaos must cease its relentless march to ironically attend to destabilizing communist forces in their nascent dominion. Seeing his private property predicament as an opportunity to knock Zombie Man and Skarbrand Chan off balance and regain some momentum, Dead Person Man instructs Carl to take as many soldiers as he can muster and launch an attack on Festus's distracted forces, despite the Disciples of Disease still possessing numerical superiority. While recovering from the previous route's casualties, Karl Franz barricades himself within the capital city Altdorf in an attempt to recover his strength in time to survive a now inevitable knockout blow, sure to come from the north as soon as evil can work out their interpersonal differences. He orders the loyal Imperial ally Balthazar Gelt to lead the attack instead. Sunset glows on Gelt, enjoying a hilltop advantage with his much more imposing army. Armed with a considerable arrangement of artillery and ranged units, Karl's faithful friend is ready to grind the enemy's monsters down to dust. Cannon fire sends mashed marauder bits into Festus's face, while outriders burst from the trees and harass Festus's cultural enrichment team. Just as soon as the advantage seems to be in the hands of the Empire, a pack of warhounds flank the artillery from the rear and quickly dismantle them, sending shockwaves through the vanguard's morale. Seeing the ambush skillfully executed, Zombie Man's agents gain tremendous confidence, forcing their way to Gelt through the faltering Imperial infantry like paparazzi smelling a car accident. Although the outriders maintain an accurate barrage towards Festus's Reddit moderator strike force, it does nothing to slow them down as they pummel the remaining humans into a terrified retreat. With Festus's healing ability and Gelt's distinct absence of health, the situation deteriorates rapidly, with chaos claiming the field. As the rapid degradation of the Empire continues to unfold in the west, neither Serio nor the Red Baron have yet suffered a descent into maddening anarchy. No more than usual for the Greenskins at least. Seeing no reason to leap headfirst into self-destruction, the two agree to temporary pact to eliminate Dryka, an aggressive tree spirit who has emerged from the nearby forests on an extinction rebellion intended to slaughter everyone who isn't driving electric cars and throwing soup on paintings. Sirio marches his vampiric forces to the agreed-upon location to participate in a pitched battle against Ostermark's least immoral liberal arts professor. When Azag's orcs characteristically charge impetuously into the fray on their own, not content to share any more of the fun with Vlad than necessary. Unfortunately for Baron, this leads to a disastrous defeat as the orcs' carbon footprint is forcibly reduced by the ruthless emissions regulators before Vlad even has time to attempt an intervention. Content that his obligations have been met, and unwilling to part with such succulent new opportunities, Sirio directs his forces away from Ostermark and instead seizes control of Steerland by strength of arms. Protestations of conquered imperial subjects receive no word from the capital as Vlad's shadow stretches ever further from the peaks of the Broken Spine. Real estate prices are moderately depressed within the rapidly changing borders of the Empire as even Karl Franz's allies strike fear into the hearts of the remaining citizens, a group which grows ever smaller by the day. While each player settles into the tempo of the campaign, the Beastmen remain enigmatically hidden, pursuing long-term goals perhaps unknown even to themselves. With the Alliance of Order doing their best impression of an underwater sugar cube, Festus still can't help but torpedo what's left. 3 of our embattled commanders fight tooth and claw to avoid dissolving while their adversaries look forward to a sweet sugar cube syrup. Seeing the writing on the wall, Lewin follows coupled spheres' divinely delivered directives and performs a feat of diplomatic savvy by obtaining a peace with both Marienburg and Musalon, freeing up his forces to leave the dismal trenches of his two-front war and prepare to march to the aid of Reichland. However, the necromancer Heinrich Kemmler has been busy building an army of his own and licks his lips at the sight of Lewin's beleaguered vanguard headed to relieve Karl Franz's forces by way of Axbite Pass. The undead launch a brutal ambush against Lewin in an attempt to hasten his exhausted veteran's retirement as unliving cannon fodder. Once again, Coupled Sphere remains estranged from the Imperial theater, but his tenacious efforts continue to deny access to innumerable foes seeking to add pressure to Franz's faltering forces. With the time bought with the blood of the Bretonnians, Karl negotiates a confederation with Balthazar Gelt to restore some strength to his dominion. Solent armies march north with Gelt at the helm, but not in time to prevent Festus from returning and laying siege to Altdorf. Altdorf umbrella sales skyrocket as feces-furnished fabrications fling filthy flechettes deep into the city. While Festus fails to overpower the Empire's healthcare system from afar, he also has to contend with the continued Beastmen-related anarchy in the rear echelons of his own domain. It still seems plausible that Order may knock their opponents fully off balance with the right stroke, so long as Chaos remains afflicted by the worst plague of all: central planning. However, Sylvania will not be contributing to that counter-offensive operation. The enigmatic Beastmen, having yet to show themselves on the front lines, emerge from the forests of Talabekland to share the good word with Vlad's caravan of satanic dentists, tying Sirio into a prolonged theological debate and preventing his arrival at Altdorf. Despite the vast superiority of his forces per capita, Kazrak stalls in the face of the undead molasses, and decides to split his forces in an attempt to simultaneously pacify Talabekland while also keeping the vampires preoccupied. However, this new strategy enables Vlad to withdraw the majority of his forces and begin amassing a congregation of unprecedented density to break through the blockade. Meanwhile, Red Baron's Greenskin tribe is barely kept together by their divinely inspired leader, who is able to prevent total annihilation only through the sage management of their controller. Dryka's frothing arboreal crusade shows up at Kazid Urkulaz, hell-bent on replacing Azag's entire civilization with a statue of Greta Thunberg. Baron conceals the majority of his forces within the thick woods while skirmishers spring forth from various hiding places to harangue the interlopers before retreating back into the canopy. Incensed by the teasing, Dryka's army launches an impatient volley into the thick-headed numbskull's few visible units. As Azag's reinforcements begin to arrive on the scene, the battle begins in earnest, with polar bears and dryads driving orcs into the ground like fence posts, except fence posts are generally a little bit smarter. Yet Scathag's sly skirmishers seldom succeed in slaying shrubbery, and Dryka's monstrous units send several greenskins fleeing to the luckily inanimate trees. Despite the casualties, Baron's grotesque greenskin gang gains glory by isolating the treekin heroes and grinding them into sawdust through sheer force of wah. Dryka soon finds herself being piñated by a clot of trolls, and before long her forest of fury is cut down to a mere sapling support group. Unable to gain the upper branch and fearing becoming pulp, Draco's remaining comrades abandon her to her destiny as a designer bedside table, and Baron's army wins the day. Now that the beaver dam holding back Baron has given way, the possibility of a green tide washing over the arena and finishing the campaign is prominent in every player's minds. Dead Person Man must find a way to defeat Festus and prepare for Azag, or there may be nothing left to pillage by the time the Greenskin Menace makes its way to Altdorf. Vlad's resuscitation of the von Karstein family tree enables him to return to the Talabek land front and bring an end to Kazrak's guerrilla action, by literally using his ancestors' reanimated bodies as a cudgel. With the Beastmen's skirmishers and saboteurs retreating back into the deep woods with their tails between their legs, it seems that the way west is once again clear, and a legendary traffic jam of shuffling mall walkers immediately manifests. Unfortunately, it is just then that Festus directly assaults the walls of Altdorf, forcing the action before the reinforcements can arrive to make a difference. Seeing doom manifesting just beyond his gates, Karl Franz and Gelt combine forces to meet Festus in the field. The battle opens with one very unfortunate unit of Baron's volunteer orcs receiving the entirety of the Empire's frustration in flying boulder form. The Imperial cavalry soon begins their assault under the cover of the bombardment. Yet the forces of chaos stand their ground unflinchingly despite the landslide coming down on top of their heads. Just as Reichland's proudest knights surge onto the field to hammer their foes' flanks, concealed marauders and monsters emerge to block their path at every angle. It is clear that any plans of a flanking maneuver are dashed, and instead Franz orders a direct assault. Determined to even the playing field, Franz desperately attempts to cut the head from the snake with a duel he knows he can win. But just like last time, Festus's henchmen deny Karl any chance of an honest duel, and pounce on him as soon as he exposes himself. Nearby the feuding lords, the Chaos Archers are rapidly depleting, being overrun by the shock cavalry and gunners, while their hidden reinforcements seem content to watch them get slaughtered. Meanwhile, Gelt's elite cavalry forces scan the field for the perfect opportunity to catch marauders with their pants down. In a bold move, Gelt's Texas People Squadron discovers a concealed unit of Forsaken lying in ambush and ventilates them with the Empire's finest hole punchers. In the center of the field, human soldiers heroically charge the Chaos Trolls, while scores of marauders encircle Franz and his outriders, still trying to fight their way to Festus. Although the Empire manages to rout Zombie Man's minion Grog, Franz and Festus finally further their fight, with Gelt and Hudakai desperately trying to fight their way into the mosh pit to assist their leader. Unfortunately, Festus's Chaos Giant quickly subdues Gelt with several consecutive concussions. Without the aid of his subordinates, Franz is defeated and the Empire is evicted from Altdorf. With the capital in ruin and his own forces still on their way, Vlad sends baggage trains full of gold ahead to Fyldorf, where they will fund the Empire's continued resistance. Although Sirio still has every intention of liberating the capital province with his forces, and is potentially even scheming to retain possession of the province once the dust settles, his ambitions are crushed when Kazrak's papal envoy emerges from the woods and launches a surprise sermon with an army much larger than the skirmishing forces that were believed to be in the area. Vlad is horrified to find himself suddenly surrounded by what appears to be ordinary college socialists. Vlad and Isabella quickly try to remove their gothic garb and cover their tattoos, but Kazrak's perceptive preachers see right through their false confession. Vlad immediately jumps to action, giving orders to his columns with tactical savvy, but the brawn of his foe proves too much. In the rear echelons, Beastmen handlers unleash Zombie Man's pet Gorbel upon Vlad's pimped-out ride, while the rest of his obedient biomass are herded into a central corral. If these units weren't the undead, this would probably be a pretty horrifying situation to find themselves in, but they're pretty chill about it. Despite the Beastmen's overwhelming advantage, the vampires still bite back and inflict a respectable count of casualties while trying to buy time to regenerate their most crucial fighters. Vlad's army suddenly comes down with a mass case of rigor mortis, which makes reaching the army withdrawal position pretty much impossible. Any hopes of survival Vlad may have had are snuffed out, as 1,600 more beastmen charge out of the trees with Torox the brass bull at their head. In the face of exponentially worsening odds, Vlad and the remnants of his army all perform a Jonestown interpretive dance. With Sirio's forces annihilated and his greatest lieutenant sent back to Drakenhof in a shoebox along with his entire army, the last hope of the Empire seems to have faded. Karl Franz issues a proclamation that every citizen in the Empire still human is to fight to their last breath to expel the invaders. At least Vlad's gold had arrived intact, enabling the temporary security of Solent with mercenaries and fortifications. Lewin, meanwhile, holds together a patchwork defensive line stretching from Lyonesse to the Blackstone Post, with innumerable villains pacing just beyond the barricades, licking their lips like caged hyenas, except Lewin is the one in the cage. Although the battered Bretonnians have bravely bested every foe to rear their ugly heads so far, one has gone unnoticed until now, and arrives to finally finish the job. Brom the Paunch initiates a full-on war against the Bretonnians, shattering defensive lines and flattening settlements. Although Lewin is able to destroy the Greenskin armies intended to pass into Reichland, it comes at the cost of his tenuous hold over Bretonnia collapsing entirely. With Draika's former army now fueling the forges and furnaces of Azag's recovering tribe, the embattled Bone Rattlers find themselves at the border of Sylvania, facing off directly with Vlad and his similarly recovering army. With both factions bound by military allegiance to annihilate one another, a very tense standoff ensues across the River Ster. With many of the campaign's major conflicts and minor distractions all finding resolution, the situation seems to be developing towards a decisive final confrontation. The Eastern forces and Western forces are finally feeling the gravitational pull of the Empire's capital, and are all marching to the place where victory and defeat shall be conclusively decided. The decisive moment in the campaign is upon us, and sensing this, Coupled Spear evacuates what remains of Bretonnia and rushes south through Marienburg to finally link up with his allies directly. Simultaneously, Sirio and the Red Baron become aware of the impending final battle and choose to travel westward together, maintaining a temporary ceasefire so that they can attend the climactic moment at full strength rather than potentially missing it altogether. All 6 players arrive with their strongest lieutenants at the appointed place, ready to determine the fate of this dimension for the next 100 years. The denouement begins with a tense standoff, neither side willing to advance until all of the participants have assembled. Only minutes later, the hordes of beastmen, orcs, Bretonnians, Imperials, demons, and the undead are arrayed across the plain. With all 6 teams in position, the order is given and their forces charge. The armies of Sylvania stand defiant, yet alone, against the entire might of Zombie Man and Scarbrand Chan's malevolent mobs, who crash into them like Kimbo Slice landing a haymaker on a 2-pound bunny rabbit. While Vlad and Isabella face off against certain annihilation, the Bretonnian and Imperial forces march to meet Baron's 2 Wa armies. Enjoying an elevated position over the battlefield, Azag's orcs comfortably hold their lines against the enemy attacks, while the left flank is picked apart, bone by bone like a buffet besieged by beastly barbarians. A heroic squadron of vampiric and Bretonnian knights slip through the center of the battlefield and crash into the flanks of the Greenskins' ranged columns, but do negligible damage facing the steep uphill climb, and are quickly chased away by flying terrors. Festus and Torox, meanwhile, face off with Vlad and Isabella, while the vampires' front line collapses all around them. As the left flank completely loses cohesion under the brutally overpowering might of the Minotaurs and Chaos monstrosities, Lewin's reserves quickly begin to panic, as they become the new target of the rampaging hordes. The few soldiers of order still alive are redeployed to the right flank in an attempt to make a last stand, but their pursuers are so hot on their trails that they have no time to establish a defensive line, and the hillside becomes an abattoir of human-shaped fast food. Greenskins, beastmen, and Nurgle's stinkiest servants descend upon the few remaining forces of the Empire like an impenetrable monsoon, washing away all that was orderly in an unstoppable tide of filth. In the end, the fate of the Empire was decided in no more than 10 minutes of horrifying slaughter. And so it was decided that despite heroic efforts to preserve the humanity of the Empire, the old world of this dimension was to be set on a path of decay and disorder. Scarbrand Chan, Zombie Man, and the Red Baron extinguished the light of Dead Person Man, Coupled Spear, and Sirio's resistance forever. But as this dimension's story concludes, another is just beginning elsewhere. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button to make sure you're with us as each page of our story unfolds. If you'd like to find your way into a story just like this one, head on over to our Discord server where you can participate in all kinds of compelling events just like the one you just watched.
What's kicking, chicken?
Whoa, who are you? How did you get here?
That was freaking rad. You totally kicked their asses. What the hell were those things anyway?
I'm not really sure what they are, to be honest, but They seem to have something to do with these worlds that keep showing up. I used to have everything under control, but lately there's been so many more, I've been struggling to keep on top of it. Is something the matter?
No, just, thinking. It's not my fault your stupid game keeps crashing. Man, that was way easier. I should have thought of this weeks ago. Come to think of it, how did this even get here? Oop, missed one. Oh shit. Yeah, it's crazy. I have no idea what could be causing that.
I see. Well, I'm sorry to have dragged you into this in that case. Anyway, thanks for saving my behind. I'm Praximus, and this is my castle. I've been building it ever since I showed up here. Speaking of which, what are you doing here?
Oh right, I'm Catalina. I was just, wandering around, saw you in trouble, figured I should jump in. Now that I'm here, may as well lend a hand. Oh, I found this along the way. Weird, right?
Oh, this looks exciting.
Oh, what is it?
It looks like a multiplayer campaign where several...
I can sleep on the floor in your castle. It's no problem. Or outside, if that's better. You've got some nice trees. I've done the whole sleep hanging upside down from a branch thing.
That's alright. I have plenty of spare room. Actually, I think I have a cot somewhere upstairs. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Did you make those tights yourself?
I meant questions about what we do here, but yes, come with me. We need to be prepared for the next time they show up.